Well, hello friends, and thank you for joining me. And here I am out in Garabandal in Spain in the House of Sanctification. I'm here on retreat, on the Divine Will retreat, and here I am with the director of this wonderful centre, the director of this house, Anne Ellison. Welcome, Anne. Great to have you, to finally be here in this beautiful house to witness what's going on in Garabandal, and I guess to share about, your story of Garabandal and the sequence of events that happened. So Anne, perhaps you can share with our audience just a wee little bit about yourself and how you arrived here over 25 years ago, because Anne has an amazing story to share with us.
The reason I got to come here is because I joined an organization back in 1994 that was founded by a gentleman named Mr. Thomas Fahy, F-A-H-Y, and he's Irish, and
of course,
yes, and brilliant. So he had founded the organization called the Luisapicarreta Center for the Divine Will, and I went to work for him and Kathy Fahy, his wife. We had conferences on the Divine Will, and Europe was coming every year to these conferences, even from Australia, Japan, Germany and places like that.
Yeah.
And they said, we can't afford to keep coming here. We want you to build a place in Europe. So Tom never did anything quite fast, but so he prayed quite a bit about it, and he said, I think Our Lady does want us to have a place in Europe. Mm-hmm. So he was coming over to Europe to find out where Our Lady had him build this house. Well, he went to Lourdes, he went to Fatima, and he got no inspiration there. So he was just stopping in Garabandal just because he's a big promoter of Garabandal, and he wanted to visit it on his way to Lourdes.
Right. To
see if that's where Our Lady wanted it. Well, when he got here, Our Lady made it very clear to him that this is where she wanted the house to be built.
Yeah.
And so he said yes to Mother, and he started raising money to get the property that he wanted. And the property, they said, would not be sold because it was bought by a man that was going to build a house for his wife for the miracle. But she had died, and he said, if Tom could buy it. So he raised the money like that, just like Our Lady. When she wants something done, it's done.
Yeah. And, just to go back to Tom, because Tom was extremely influential around the Divine Will, because he was partly responsible, I guess, for bringing the Divine Will into the English-speaking world, right?
He was the responsible person who brought the Divine Will to the English-speaking world. It was Thomas Fahy. Of course, others came shortly after that, but he was the first to bring it, and he really had to learn about it himself. He was a mentor of a little guy named Mike Adams, and Mike at 19 wanted to become a priest, so he sent him over to Italy to join Father Gustavo Morales' group, who were at that time the White Army of Our Lady of Garabandal.
Right.
Well, they had found out about Louisa in the interim. In fact, Tom was in the presence of Louisa's writings when he was visiting Father Gustavo's group, and didn't have any idea it was Louisa's writings, but he was thrilled to think that he was in the presence of them, at one time. Mm-hmm. So by the time little Mike got over there, they had already learned about Louisa, and they had been reading her writings and things like that. So Mike Adams still wasn't Father Mike, but anyway, Mike Adams sent Tom back legal-sized pages of Louisa's writings in Italian, and Tom said, I can't read Italian.
Yes.
But he knew if Mike sent it back, that it had to be something very important. So he just went and got a giant Italian dictionary, and he translated those 4 pages back and forth of these legal-sized things. And it gave him the gist of what it was all about, but he didn't understand it. So he really prayed, and he prayed hard because he said, I know there's something great here, but I just can't get it. So one night on his birthday, he was reading them again, and in it talks about how Adam fascinated God walking in the garden. And Tom said, there's just no way in the world that a creature could fascinate God. So he really was saying something's really wrong here. And so he was just about to kind of throw the papers away he had translated when he heard this interior, or got this inspiration that, you're right, Tom, nothing you can do can fascinate me.
Yeah.
But me watching myself walk in you in the Garden of Eden is what fascinates me.
Yeah.
Well, Tom got it like that, and he cried for a long time because he realized that he really got something huge, but he still wanted to find out more about it. And of course, Father Mike eventually became Father Mike, and so they would talk on the phone after that, and it just really blossomed at that. And so he started teaching it immediately that he understood it to the people in America, and that was in the early 70s.
Yeah, it might. And Divine Will is now taking off exponentially, thank God. And only for himself, Tom Fahy, we wouldn't actually be here. We wouldn't be actually having this retreat only for Tom. But I know, Anne, that you wanted to share a little bit about Garabandal, and particularly around the sequence of events.
Yeah,
from your own perspective, because you feel you wanted to share with our audience tonight. So perhaps you can start why you felt it was so important to share on this subject.
Well, because I've been learning about Garabandal, and I've really loved Garabandal since I was a teenager. I found out about it when it was happening through my mother, who was very devoted to Padre Pio, and found out it through this connection she had with Padre Pio. So we started reading about Garabandal back when I was 15, 16 years old. So anyway, it taught me a lot back then, and I loved Garabandal, and my mother adored it. So I was raised with Garabandal, and then I met Tom Fahy, found out he was a great promoter of Garabandal, so we had that in common too, besides loving the gift of the divine will as well. Coming here and being able to live here in the year 2000 was like a dream come true for me. I mean, I was just ecstatic. And so I know so much about Garabandal, but I also know the sequence that Our Lady gave the prophecies here in Garabandal.
Yeah.
There were, so many people already know this, but there were 2 nights of the screams.
Yeah.
2 nights of the screams. The first night, they screamed for 50 minutes. And Our Lady told them what they were seeing was the Great Tribulation.
Yeah.
Now, there's a difference between the tribulation and the chastisement. A lot of people say, oh, that chastisement's coming. It's not the chastisement coming. It's the tribulation coming. And she even said it is the worst tribulation in the history of mankind and the church. So we knew that something very serious was coming down the pike. So she also explained, and you can read it in the magazines where you get Garabandal. There's a volume that's called The Warning, and it was put out very early by Barry Hanratty. And it says in there, nothing's going to stop the tribulation except the warning. So the warning has to come after the tribulation. Nothing will stop it except the warning. And Jesus told Conchita, and it's in all the magazines, you can read it anytime you want to. He said the tribulation, the warning is a preparation for your soul. The miracle is for the conversion of the entire world. And so these sequences will happen shortly after each other. And even Mary Lowly told a priest, she understood that it would either be 3 weeks or 3 months after the warning that the miracle would happen. So that right there tells you that the sequence is the Great Tribulation, which only no human on earth can stop it, no army, no country, nobody. The only thing that can stop it is the great warning, which is the correction of conscience. And I've heard some people say that the warning will come first, and then you go into the tribulation.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, it makes no sense. Why would God correct your conscience to fall in love with Him and your brothers and sisters, and you know what is right and wrong, and you go out and kill your brother? It's not even logical to me. And this is the sequence that Our Lady gave it here in Garabandal. The Great Tribulation will happen. The only thing that will stop it is the warning. After the warning will come the great miracle, which will be the conversion of the entire world.
So the general consensus out there is the warning will come first, and then the tribulation. Yeah. And I just can't even, that's not even logical to me. And I've even discussed it with some people out there that believe that, but they're firm in their belief, and it's just, I just can't reconcile it. But the other thing is, then of course there's the permanent sign. And we're praying that that's the reason Our Lady wanted this house here, is that people from all over the world will be coming to see the permanent sign. And she knows someone will be here to teach them about living in the divine will, because their hearts will be so open. They'll be converted. In fact, he said the whole world will be Catholic. The whole world. So we've got Muslims to teach. We've got so many people to teach the Jewish religion. You have your job cut out for you.
I know it. Well, I probably won't be here, but at least somebody will be here, and they'll all be so hungry. But the other thing is, she talks about, of course, the second night of the screams was the great tribulation, the great chastisement. Now, they screamed for 3 hours with that, and it wasn't little girl screams. It was guttural, horrifying, terrifying screams. Well, so was the first night, but they just screamed so much longer in this. And it's the rain of fire from heaven that's going to purify this entire earth and make it ready for the kingdom to come, for the reign of the kingdom. And you picture that Jerusalem coming down dressed for her spouse, this beautiful thing coming, and that's the way I picture it. And people say, well, that's conditional. At this point, there was a point here when I was here that I read somewhere that she had said it's really not conditional anymore. I could be corrected on that. I really could. But it just seems in my memory that I remember that. But I think if we don't live as God wants all brothers and sisters to live, and live in truth, then it will not be conditional. He'll have to purify this earth. And from what I understand and what I've heard is that once people start turning their back again on God, He's going to say, well, I've done everything I can. And there's nothing else I could do but purify this earth.
So in terms of, I guess, we are at a Divine Will retreat in the House of Sanctification, all around the Divine Will. So how do you think this plays into this third era, this final era, this era of peace?
Well, I'm not sure anything's going to be left after the great chastisement. I think this is going, he told Louisa that the Eden that's going to be during the new era, when the kingdom comes, the Eden will be much greater than the Eden that Adam and Eve lived in. He said, because I have been here and I have watered this with my blood, this earth with my blood, and it will be much greater than the Eden that Adam and Eve lived in. So I see the great chastisement as totally purifying this entire world. We read in the Revelations about the mountains will go, it'll be all even. I think that's more, maybe a reflection of our soul, I hope. but because I love the mountains. But I know things are going to be different, and it's not going to be at all like this. And these houses, I mean, people are going to be, it's going to go back to the way it was in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
And he even says that. But he said that when the kingdom comes, everyone on earth will love God and Our Lady. And everyone will understand sin and holiness and goodness, and they'll be full of joy. No one, in fact, he even said there'll be no more sin, no more illness. Everyone will live a holy life, you know, a wonderful life as in heaven, heaven on earth. So that's what the people in the new era gets to, you know.
I know that Tom, I guess, had a dream that, you know, when this did take place, that, you know, Garabandal would be central to that, and that this place would be a place where people could come and experience that permanent sign that Our Lady had promised to leave.
Well, that's before the chastisement,
yes. So, you know, this is, I guess, Garabandal is going to play a huge role in this whole
I really believe that with all my heart. I think Garabandal is definitely ground zero, as Ann says, and that, yeah, it will make a big difference. You know, I used to, I've heard 100 times, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to say things, you know, thinking I'm right and I'm not, but I have heard so many people say that the permanent sign would be in Garabandal as well.
Yeah.
And there will be a permanent sign, but it won't be the same sign that's going to be here.
Yeah.
Because I was really curious about that, so I went to Garabandal, to Medjugorje.
Medjugorje, yeah.
And I talked to Mariana.
Yeah.
And I asked her about it. I said, can you just tell me what this sign is going to be that's going to be here in Medjugorje? Yeah. And she said, well, when no one believed them back in the early days about Our Lady coming, they begged her to please give a sign so that people would believe them. And she said to them, when she leaves, she will leave a permanent sign.
That's right.
But it's a sign of belief that, yes, I have been here, I am here, and I have been here. So it's not the same permanent sign that Our Lady was talking about, because hers is going to be, the one that's going to be left here will definitely be, we pray Eucharistic or something. Yes. And they're thinking also that it could be the smoke and the fire. Because at one point in Garabandal, for 8 days, in the daytime you saw the smoke, at night you saw the fire. And it was a mystical fire, a mystical smoke. So a lot of people say, oh, well, that's what we're going to see at the permanent sign. Well, nobody knows but God.
None of us know.
Anyway, they are going to leave a permanent sign that you can film, but you can't touch. So it's got to be something. Well, I have no idea what it's going to be.
You know, we are living in I guess, exciting times, Anne.
Very exciting times.
We are, and in the divine will, I always say, it's very much an interior job, right? It's an interior relationship with the Lord. Yeah. And I guess when we only have a peaceful interior life, can we have a peaceful exterior life? There may be those watching who haven't yet experienced the divine will. What would you say to them to encourage them to maybe take it up or read? As you see, friends, we have a wonderful picture of Louisa here, luisapicarreta, who gave us the beautiful 36 volumes. So what would you say to folk who may be listening, who are looking at this video, may say, I've never heard about the divine will. The church has the backing of the church. The volumes, the first 19 are approved. The various books
all 36 have now been approved.
Yeah.
What they haven't had, they don't have the Nil Ostat or the Imprimatur yet. But that's coming, and it's very soon.
It's very, very soon.
They're working on a few things that they say are ambiguous. So, Jesus only has one meaning. So if something sounds like it could make two meanings, they've just got to figure out which one Jesus meant. So that's the only thing they're working on right now. And of course the theologians will, the great theologians that we have will figure that one out. And there's only a few things. So all the volumes have been already so approved and given the yes and everything else from the church. It's one of the most exciting things you'll ever read in your entire life. I can tell you that. It is God himself speaking to you, and he dearly, dearly wants to live one life with you. One life. Not him in heaven and you down here, and not Eucharistic, because we do want Eucharistic, but I mean, Eucharist, when you receive the Eucharist, it lasts 15 minutes in your soul. But when you live in the divine will of God, and I know many of y'all were raised understanding doing the divine will of God. Well, it's moved up a notch now, according to God's will. Now we live in that will. And if you think about the jump, it's incredible. He will live in us and do what we do, and we will live in him and do what he does. It's one life now, and it's not separated in any way. So what I speak to you, God's speaking to you. What I'm thinking, he's thinking in me. What I'm hearing, he's hearing. What I'm walking, he's walking in me. Everything is done reciprocal. Everything is reciprocal. We thank him for everything, that all creation. He shows us himself in creation. We learn about God in creation, just like the Jews had to learn about God in the Old Testament. We have to learn about God again through creation, which is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's great.
Anyway.
Okay. Well, thank you, Anne, for joining me. We'll be talking to you more throughout the course of this week. Thank you for joining me. More to come
thank you.
from Garabandal. Until next time, bye-bye for now.